Welcome back to the channel. Racer X here, and today I'm back with my good buddies at the Hopper Motorplex in McKinney, Texas. I've got a short video that I want to put together for you guys on the Trackhawk. Yes, you have not seen a lot of Trackhawk content from me. I just haven't had access to a lot of them, but today I have access to one. I want to give you some really neat facts. After 4 model years, the Trackhawk is still really amazing. One of the best SUVs on the market. I want to tell you why, maybe give you some things that you were not aware of about the Trackhawk, and it should be a fun one. If you're brand new to my channel, please do me a big gigantic favor. Please subscribe. It's right down there in the corner. All you have to do is hit that. You can also hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when I have new content coming out. Lots of great stuff coming around this year for you, and here we go. And there it is. That is the Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk, one of the baddest SUVs on the planet still. After 4 model years, this thing has been out since 2018, and this is kind of the staple of the all-wheel drive Hellcats. I want to give you some really unique specs about this, and I realize, like I said, it's been out a while, but I want to give you some perspective on just how awesome this thing still really is and tell you some things that you may not know. So there are quite a few things that I could tell you about the Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk. For example, this is actually the most expensive vehicle that Jeep has ever produced. So this one's going to sticker somewhere around the $90,000 range, and you can get these up into the 6 figures depending upon how you have them spec'd out. But there's some very unique features to the Trackhawk that you don't get in the regular SRT. Obviously, we had the regular SRT out before we had this. Has the same hood there, but there are some key differences to be able to tell, hey, is that a regular SRT Jeep or is that a Trackhawk? First of all, just like you would see on the Charger Hellcats, there's no fog light down here, right there. So that's actually going to be for your heat exchangers, a lot like you would see in the Charger Hellcat, as I just mentioned. So another obviously key feature, you do get yellow calipers on the Trackhawk. That's one of the most eye-popping things. Is that a Hellcat in that thing, or is that a regular SRT pack in the 6.4? Well, the yellow calipers are a telltale sign. Also, you do get a supercharged badge right there as we step around to the back of the vehicle. Also, some other telltale signs. Obviously, right here, you're going to have your Trackhawk badge. You do get quad exhaust tips on this. With the regular SRT, you're just going to kind of get the single exhaust tips right there. And of course, here is the rock star of the Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk. That is your 707 horsepower Hellcat engine. Obviously, you do see the 2.4-liter supercharger sitting right on top. One of the baddest SUV engines out there. And of course, this one does make 645 pound-feet of torque. It's 5 less than a Hellcat. A lot of people kind of want to know why that is. It's just sort of the way that it was engineered in this particular vehicle. A lot of people don't realize that this entire thing was kind of engineered around this engine, all the way down to the suspension geometry. This actually features the Bilstein shocks in it. So this vehicle actually sits about an inch lower than the standard SRT does with the 6.4. So that is another little difference to be aware of there. One of the coolest things about the Trackhawk is the fact that this thing will tow like 7,200 pounds. It will comfortably seat 5 people with a whole bunch of luggage behind you, and it is still one of the top 5 fastest SUVs in the world. This thing will go 180 miles an hour. How cool is that? So here's a quick look at the inside of the Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk. A really nice place to sit. As you can see, the infotainment screen on this thing is beautiful. I'll actually go ahead and start it up for you really quick. And you can see, no mistaking the fact that this is the supercharged version. You've got a Trackhawk badge down here as well. The surfaces in this car are actually quite nice. Like I said, really nice graphics here on the screen. You do get the Alcantara seats in here. It says Trackhawk, no mistaking that. Once again, this particular one has the red seat belts in it. Harman Kardon sound system. I mean, it is a really nice place to sit and do business in the Trackhawk. And I didn't want to gloss over this, but you do, of course, get a big, beautiful sunroof in the Trackhawk as well. Just another great feature of this vehicle. Now, I did a little bit of research to find out if the Trackhawk is really kind of still relevant in the conversation when you're talking about performance SUVs. And come to find out, it absolutely is. So, you know, when you talk about what's out there now, even, like I said, 4 years later after they introduced this, this thing is still one of the best SUVs out there when it comes to performance. Yes, I realize Tesla has that new Model X Plaid out there, which is rewriting all the record books in terms of just what to expect in performance-wise out of an SUV. I mean, that is the fastest SUV in the world by a lot. But it's really not that fair to compare internal combustion vehicles to the new electrics. I mean, it's like comparing apples and oranges. But we can, just for the sake of argument, we can talk a little bit about that. So what can we really compare the Trackhawk to out there in the performance segment when we're talking about SUVs? Well, obviously you've got the Urus out there, the Lamborghini, you've got the Bentley Bentayga, and of course that's the speed version, just to even come close to competing with this. As I mentioned, this one you're going to sticker right around 90,000. Like I said, you can get more expensive than that, but from a sticker price perspective, this is a huge bargain compared to some of the other stuff that competes with it. $225,000 is where the Lamborghini starts, and with engines and a seat, it's probably closer to $300,000. The Bentayga, same kind of thing here. $262,000 for the speed is where it starts, and if you get any options on it at all, you're looking at $300K easy for one of those. And so the Urus, 189 mile an hour is the top speed. Mind you, this thing goes 180, and it does it at a fraction of the cost. And the 0 to 60 is actually faster on this. It is a 3.5 versus a 3.6 in the Lamborghini, and the Bentayga, same thing, 190 mile an hour, but so it's within 10 mile an hour, the Trackhawk is, but 0 to 60, this is actually the faster car. So think about that for a second. So another metric that I found pretty interesting, and a lot of people don't even talk about this metric, was the braking metric. And Lamborghini has always prided themselves on how fast their cars stop. And they should, because they're pretty darn good at it. But from a 60 to 0, the Lamborghini takes 108 feet. But this thing is no slouch. 114 feet is what it takes for this thing to go from 60 to 0. And mind you, this thing weighs 5,300 pounds. So those big Brembos that they have on this really do a good job of slowing this thing down. So very capable on stopping as well. Now, another question that does get asked a lot is the Trackhawk faster than the Hellcat? Well, the truth is no, it's not, but it's actually a lot closer than you would think. And the Hellcat, as we know, is a monster. So if you take the Hellcat version that has the exact same engine in it as this, so this is the non-red eye, the standard Hellcat, it basically is rated in the quarter mile to run 11.4. Well, this one runs 11.6s. So that's 2/10, or basically 2 cars at the end of the track. That is pretty darn close when you're talking about a vehicle that basically weighs almost 1,000 pounds more than a Challenger Hellcat does. About 900 pounds is the difference. So actually pretty impressive what this Trackhawk does when you compare it to its brother in the Hellcat Challenger. Now, I do realize that we have this new Tesla Model X Plaid out there, which is kind of messing everything up for everybody. As I mentioned, you know, the new electrics are just insane what they will do. And when you compare really anything to that, it's going to feel sort of slow. But something to ponder here, even when you go back, say, 6-7 years ago, how many vehicles on the road were running 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. It is amazing how far we've come with technology and how fast these vehicles really are. So when you look at the X Plaid, yes, it does go 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, which is super impressive. This is within 1 second of that. And then when you talk about top speed, that is limited to 163 mile an hour. And even if you threw the optional, like, you know, track upgrade that they just released into it, it's 175. So this is actually still faster when you talk about top speed. So maybe the X Plaid is quicker, but this is faster. So like 17, 18 mile an hour faster. And that could be pretty substantial. I mean, something definitely cool to think about. Also, this vehicle tows about 2,000 pounds more than the X Plaid does. Go figure. Now I'm actually aboard the Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk, and I have to mention, it is a very comfortable vehicle to drive. Not just from a seating perspective, I love the big seats you get in these Mopars, but in terms of just the way the thing rides, I'm in sport mode, and it still has a really nice ride quality about it, just cruising around on the streets like this. And the great thing about this is it still retains a lot of that kind of capability that you would expect from a Jeep Grand Cherokee. However, this bad boy, packing 707 horsepower, as I mentioned, is one of the fastest SUVs on the road still, and it sounds so good when you actually step on it. Now, one of the questions I've received a lot is, hey, look, can you daily drive a Hellcat? And the truth is, this one, along with its kind of brothers in the TRX and the Durango Hellcat, are really fantastic to daily drive because they are, in fact, all-wheel drive. Yes, they're not the best on gas mileage, and, that's just part of driving something with this much horsepower, typically, unless you're driving a Tesla or something. But at the end of the day, when you get something that's this capable, that you can drive in the rain, it's actually getting ready to rain outside right now, and not worried about it because I've got all-wheel drive here, and these Bilstein shocks really do a great job of keeping this thing planted to the ground. And even in inclement weather, all you got to do is just flip your foot a little bit, listen to it. Oh, yes. And off you go. Now, I really wish Jeep had made a red-eye version of this particular car, but, as I drive it around, I really do try and find some things about each car that I don't like. And this car it's a little bit difficult for me because I can't really find a whole lot about this thing that I don't like. It's kind of like when I drove the TRX, I love the TRX so much I tried to get one, and it's just, these things are so Jekyll and Hyde in terms of the way that you can just be comfortable, put so much stuff in it, and then just absolutely take off with very little fanfare, and you can mod these things like crazy. I've seen some extremely fast 9-second Trackhawks, and you can still pile your whole family in this and be super comfortable. Take this to a road trip to Denver if you wanted to, and the sky is the limit with this. Not a whole lot to dislike about the Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk. I got to do it one more time. Why? Because why not? So this day and age, we really have been spoiled by the numbers, so to speak, right? We've kind of gotten numb to just how fast cars are. And it's no strange thing to see cars out there with 1,000 horsepower just running down the road, or even coming straight from the factory now with over 1,000 horsepower. That is a thing. And, it's just insane to be a car person right now. But is the Trackhawk still relevant when it comes to performance and the metric of performance? And my answer is absolutely. And the reason why is this. Think about some things here. This runs 0 to 60 in the same time that a Gen 5 Viper does. And we know what's gone on with the prices of those. Yes, it's a manual, but I mean, think about how much lighter a Viper is and how capable that is, a big V10 against a big old heavy SUV. So definitely think about that. Here's another vehicle, a Ferrari 458. This is actually the exact same 0 to 60 as a Ferrari 458. We know they're really expensive, very high-performing cars, and this holds its own with that. And there are lots of other vehicles that this is actually faster than. Think about this, a C7 Z06, a Porsche 911, a Shelby GT500, the new one. This is faster from 0 to 60. And then, of course, the Audi R8. This is faster from 0 to 60 than an Audi R8, and it runs the exact same in the quarter mile. How insane is that to think about? A lot of people don't realize when you see a Trackhawk, and we've gotten numb to it. Like I said, it's been out a while, but I mean, this thing is still incredibly capable. And, it's definitely something that you have to ponder when you see one of these going down the road. Just remember, you're still looking at one of the absolute baddest SUVs on the planet. And you just have to give, Jeep and Mopar their credit because it is a fantastic vehicle, very fun to drive, and a joy to own.
I like it a lot.